Hey everybody, it's Party Elite here with another episode of Total Breakdown, featuring quite the gripping battle as ShetlandApache's Dwarf forces take on the Warriors of Chaos from Acero, Amargo. I apologize for butchering the name. We begin, as always, with talk of composition and deployment, and as you can see, both sides are trying some pretty interesting things. Let's start with the Dwarfs. A Rune Lord is in charge on foot, and back here we have a Thane alongside him, bringing in that Tormentor sword. We've got a very nice formation up front over here. The tip of the spear consists of these miners, and on either end as well we have these miners, while in between them, these miners with blasting charges, hoping to get some of those blasting charges in as the enemy charges through and maybe get some damage in there as that happens. These Dwarf Warriors, meanwhile, will look to dive in wherever possible to provide some support as these Iron Drakes, the Skulder Guard, as well as these Iron Drakes with their Troll Hammer torpedoes, will look to fire away as those lines close. Behind them, we do have 3 units of Thunderers hoping to fire away as well, alongside Ulthar's Raiders, the Rangers with great weapons, who will do well in melee as well if push comes to shove, while this cannon, as you can see, is already firing away, and that's exactly why it's here. It's got the range, hoping to do damage as the enemy closes the gaps, while these Dragonback Slayers back here are looking to protect all of these range units as any cavalry or chariots might come sort of diving through. At the same time, we have up front over here a pair of I almost call them gyrocopters. Gyrocopters with brimstone guns up in the air, and these guys will do quite well against the Warriors of Chaos. They are armor-piercing with their ammunition. They do have those bombs they can drop, and at the same time they can push in and chase after any cavalry, potentially holding it in place if necessary. On the other side of the field, the Warriors of Chaos are led by none other than Sathariel, the Everwatcher, and he has brought with him a Chaos Feral Manticore, not a unit I see very often on the battlefield from Chaos anymore, I don't think. Up front, we have 3 units of Chaos Marauders with great weapons, and alongside them we have these units back here, all of them Chaos Warriors with great weapons as well. So all of that armor-piercing capability is going to help against the Dwarves, of course, and at the same time we have these Gore Beast Chariots, 3 of them, and these guys are anti-infantry and armor-piercing, so they are a very, very imminent threat for the Dawi. Now, with all that said and done, let's take a look at how this all breaks down. As you can see, those gyrocopters, I keep calling them gyrocopters in my head, they are pushing forward, looking to get some damage done to that Gore Beast Chariot unit over there, while back here you can see this entire contingent is moving forward, trying to get into position over here, and the cannons are actually looking to open fire at the Gore Beast Chariots as well. But you can see over here a little bit of damage already being done back here as the brimstone guns open fire and get some work done as the Gore Beast Chariot retreats, and off to the right over there as well, you can see that Gore Beast Chariot unit there is suffering under the fire of the cannon. So again, just picking off potential threats early on. And very interesting situation here from the Warriors of Chaos as well, not really charging forward with those chariot units, as you can see. Instead, Sathariel the Everwatcher pushing forward, looking to get some work done early on, maybe draw some aggression early on, maybe pull attention away from these Gore Beast Chariots. And back there you can see the Chaos Feral Manticore is actually giving chase to the gyrocopters back there, hoping to get some damage done nice and early. So good call over there. While over here you can see Thunderer Fire is coming in quite heavily right at Sathariel. You can see Ulthar's Raiders as well turning around, hoping to get some work done nice and early. We also have these Iron Drakes turning around, looking to get some work done immediately. In comes marked by Ulthar on Sathariel the Everwatcher, and he is being shot down as he flies towards these Thunderers. Of course, they want to take care of leadership as quickly as possible, so in comes Sathariel the Everwatcher. He's going to dive in, and as he does so, we have a beautiful backdrop of explosions provided by these Iron Drakes with their Troll Hammer torpedoes, but a fair amount of damage being done on both sides, I suppose, but Sathariel really took a huge risk there. He's already at about a quarter of his health. Not a good situation for him to be in at all, and you can see immediately, more or less, he has to turn around and pull back as all of that Thunder Fire continues to pour in. So he is at about a quarter health right now as he pulls away, and off in the distance over here, you can see these gyrocopters have been having a rough time. One of them has been destroyed by the Feral Manticore over there, and these guys have to fall back into safety. So really well done there with the Manticore, chasing down that unit and hoping to eliminate it nice and early, I imagine, while over here you can see Sathariel now at 50% health. A very terrible situation to put him in, and finally these chariots are now creeping forward on one side, while over here we have the gyrocopter continuing to open fire, getting some damage done. Again, it's got the brimstone gun that gives it some armor-piercing missile damage, so it will get some work done up front. Meanwhile, though, you can see these miners are finally tossing their blasting charges, hoping to get some damage into these Chaos Marauders with their great weapons before they actually close the gaps. Same on the right flank over here as well. Just a little bit of damage being done. These guys are falling apart. They're about at half health, quarter health before charges go in, and in come the charges, and now the Thunderers are changing their focus a little bit as Sathariel has pushed off a little too far to the side. We have these Dragonback Slayers pushing towards him alongside the Thane as well, I believe, but these Thunderers are now firing into the front line, trying to provide some support where it's a bit more pertinent. Off in the distance, though, you can see the gyrocopters were able to get away from the Chaos Feral Manticore, and the Manticore has instead decided to push in, I think maybe chasing after this gyrocopter. Not the best call. It had this one on the run, should have just stayed focused over there, so a little unfortunate, but at the same time you can see the front lines, though, they've started in favor of the Dwarf Warriors because of the because of those mining charges. Unfortunately, it's not going to stay that way. It's going to change very quickly. And at the same time, you can see Sathriel is back now with Gorby's Chariot in tow as well. So in comes Sathriel, hoping to get a fair bit of work done to these Thunderers, and at the same time, we've got that Gorby's Chariot there pushing in towards Ulthar's Raiders, hoping to get a nice charge. A nice rear charge will do a lot of work over here, but in comes that Thunderer fire as well. These guys are going to lose their health very quickly. You can see their morale is dropping under all that range fire. We still have shots coming in from the Gyrocopter as well, and right away that Gorby's Chariot unit has given up on the fight, and Sathriel once more finds himself in a terrible position as the Dragonback Slayers close the gap as well. He is large. The Slayers are, of course, anti-large. In comes all of that Thunderer fire as well, so Sathriel is in a terrible spot. And at the same time, you can see up front over here, we have more charges closing in, more gaps closing in, so these miners with their blasting charges fire away, get a fair bit of damage done into these Chaos Warriors with their great weapons, but the charges are going to come through, and those Chaos Warriors with their great weapons will do a lot of work, of course, as these gaps close. You can see it's not going to be a good frontline engagement for the Dwarves, but back here you can see we've got this Gorby's Chariot already shattered, while Sathriel again backing away, maybe drawing aggro, maybe that was the intent there, and he's done a good job of it, because as you can see, these two Gorby's Chariots as a result are able to just push right through this massive gap over here and do a fair bit of work. These Trollhammer Torpedo Iron Drakes over here are not having a good time as those charges come through, so wonderfully done. And at the same time up here you can see the Chaos Feral Manticore is giving chase to these Gyrocopters. As I mentioned earlier, it's finally managed to close the gap, and at the same time you can see over here this unit of Gorby's Chariots has been hit by the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Good call, reduce its speed, reduce the impact damage it's going to do, and also cause a fair bit of damage as it pushes right through Ulthar's Raiders over here, tossing those Dwarfs. Nothing like a little bit of Dwarf tossing, while over here this Gorby's Chariot now is being focused upon by these Thunderers and these Thunderers as well, but it does manage to close the gap to the cannon over here and start doing a fair bit of work. Unfortunately though, it is of course fully surrounded by ranged weapons, so not going to have a good time. While you can see the front line has completely crumbled for the Dawi. They are all falling apart. All of those miners have given up on the fight, and they are pulling back. So a dangerous situation now, as that ranged core of the Dawi are now in a strange situation. At the same time, you can see the Gorby's Chariot over here has done a lot of work. These Thunderers are not having a good time, but these Thunderers back here providing some support, firing into the backs of these guys, while the Thane over here was giving chase to Sathriel. You can see Sathriel is now tied down by these Dragonback Slayers, so the Thane is able to return to the main engagements back here. These Dwarf Warriors up front are trying to hold these Chaos Warriors in place right now, and back here you can see the Gorby's Chariot has taken care of the cannon unit over here, so the crew is routing, and at the same time now it's turned around and is trying to deal with these Thunderers. But we have Ulthar's Raiders over here being taken care of by the Chaos Marauders, and also at the same time we have, I think, some of these Iron Drakes with their Trollhammer Torpedoes firing into the Gorby's Chariot, still looking to get a little bit of work done if and where possible. Back here, we see Transmutation of Lead trying to reduce the capabilities of these Dragonback Slayers, but Sathriel is in a terrible situation. Despite using Standard Eye, his melee defense buff is really not enough. He's very low on health, in a terrible spot right now, and you can see we've got that Feral Manticore still chasing after these Gyrocopters with their Brimstone guns. Maybe should have pulled back and taken care of this unit that has already been damaged. Maybe should have stuck on them earlier, way back over here, minutes ago, when this thing was being chased down and they were in a very, very precarious situation. But you can see this main line right now is doing terribly for the Dwarves. We've got all of these Thunderers giving up on the fight, Ulthar's Raiders as well giving up on the fight. The Rune Lord is sort of isolated in the middle there, could be bogged down. We've got these Trollhammer Torpedoes giving up, and over here though, Sathriel is being taken care of. He has very little health left, 189 hit points. He will be demolished in just a moment's time. There he goes. Good job by the Dragonback Slayers, but over here you can see the Gorby's Chariot is doing a lot of work as well. In comes the Thane though, trying to hold that Gorby's Chariot in place. Ultimately it routes though, and they are right at the edge of the map, so not too concerned about the return of that Chariot, I don't think. The Thane now trying to provide some assistance against the Chaos Marauders with their great weapons, while back here these Thunderers are trying to keep a gap against these Chaos Warriors with great weapons as they push in to close that gap. But unfortunately they do decide to turn around and take care of these Dragonback Slayers instead. Not the best call, should have just driven these Thunderers right to the edge of the battlefield. I think they get bogged down by the Gyrocopter with the Brimstone gun over here, while the Chaos Feral Manticore again diving in, trying to provide some assistance over here, while all the way off in the distance here these Chaos Warriors with their great weapons chase these miners with their blasting charges to the edge more or less, and hoping that or they're hoping I should say that these miners are completely taken care of. Same thing going on over here, these Chaos Marauders with their great weapons chasing after the crew of the cannon over here, just trying to eliminate that unit once and for all, while the Gorby's Chariot ultimately does retreat from the battlefield, completely shatters and routes. The Ulthar's Raiders now able to turn around alongside some of these Thunderers and fire away at these Chaos Warriors with great weapons as they are being distracted by the Rune Lord. And over here though, you can see these Chaos Warriors are able to close the gap to these Thunderers. In response, we see Marked by Ulthar coming in, hoping that these guys will be able to fire away, focus in, and eliminate that unit, but very nicely done here. That Chaos Feral Manticore once again diving in and taking care of these Thunderers, just holding them down, making sure they're not able to get shots off. So very cleverly done over there. While back here you can see the cannon crew has actually been left alone. These Chaos Marauders are returning to the main engagement, but the cannon crew has actually rallied as a result of that. At the same time, you can see these Thunderers are falling apart as the Chaos Warriors are absolutely devastating them, ruining their day, while back here the Chaos Feral Manticore very nicely ping-ponging between these two range units, making sure they're both being taken care of, and now pushing into this other unit of Thunderers as well, just trying to make sure that they all get taken care of. They're all busy and preoccupied, while over here the Thane has popped, or it had popped, Tormentor Sword just moments ago, reducing the melee attack capabilities of these Chaos Warriors, just allowing the Dragonback Slayers alongside the Thane to have a bit of an upper hand in that situation. Well, over here you can see we've got the Chaos Marauders pushing in as well, trying to bog these guys down, while the Brimstone Guns fire away from those Gyrocopters, trying to do some damage to the Chaos Feral Manticore. Over here, Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin hurting these Chaos Warriors as they go toe-to-toe with the Rune Lord, and you can see back here that cannon crew is trying to return to its cannon, and over here we have these Dwarf Warriors still holding the line. Since minutes ago, it's been maybe 2 or 3 minutes in the battle that these guys got engaged, and they're still holding the line because of their high melee defense, so well done there. But we have this other unit of Chaos Warriors with their great weapons pushing in to try and eliminate that unit. Back here you can see, meanwhile, we have these Chaos Marauders as well giving chase to these Thunderers, while off in the distance these guys were able to completely eliminate the Thunderers and the Feral Manticore as well, giving chase with some great persistence to those Thunderers, and then ultimately deciding to turn around and chase after these Thunderers instead. Not a terrible call, trying to eliminate these Thunderers, cause a lot of morale damage with that sort of double charge, but unfortunately that allows these Thunderers to sort of get away, and they could have turned around and opened fire. Not the best call either, not the worst, not the best, but the Gyrocopter here now coming in, joining into the fun, while over here that poor Dwarf just gets thrown back. That Feral Manticore ultimately dives into these Thunderers and does a lot of work, but the Dragonback Slayers now are freed up. They're able to dive into the Manticore, while over here these Gyrocopters are now firing away at this unit of Chaos Marauders, doing a fair bit of damage to health and morale as they're just trying to eliminate this unit of Thunderers, and those Thunderers are wavering right now, so a good situation over here, while the Gorebeast Chariot was able to pull off a nice charge into the cannon crew. So again, just trying to completely take care of the cannon crew. Not a bad call, you need to do that for sure. The Gyrocopter over here though provides some supporting fire, and that ultimately gets the Gorebeast Chariot to rout, while over here the Feral Manticore, on its way away from these Dragonback Slayers, gets triggered, goes out of control, starts rampaging, and stays stuck in combat against an anti-large unit. Not just any anti-large unit, but the Dragonback Slayers. So not a good situation. Fortunately for it, though, the Chaos Warriors with great weapons are right back there as well, so they will help provide some support against the Dragonback Slayers, but unfortunately a terrible situation for that Feral Manticore to be in. You can see at the same time the Gyrocopters as well firing away, while over here the Rune Lord has more or less been taken care of. Very low on health, very low on morale. These Chaos Warriors with their great weapons have done a great job, while over here you can see the Gyrocopter now pushing in to try and provide some support to these Dwarf Warriors over here, who again have been holding the line quite well. And so the Gyrocopters are there trying to provide some support to these Dwarf Warriors, who unfortunately now are wavering, but they will be able to fire away, get a little bit of damage, and maybe even drop their bombs at this beautiful, glorious clump that's over there. But over here, though, you can see the Rune Lord has given up on the fight, routing right now, trying to get out of this situation, as these Chaos Warriors with great weapons can finish him off. The Feral Manticore as well, routing over here, so an unfortunate situation for the Warriors of Chaos, but you can see this Gorebeast Chariot is returning to the fight once more, able to get a nice charge perhaps into these Thunderers over here, and back there you can see the Dwarf Warriors have finally given up on the fight. They are routing despite the support from the Gyrocopters over here. These Gyrocopters giving chase to that very same Chaos Feral Manticore that was earlier harassing them, so a little bit of poetry going on over there, while the Dragonback Slayers are trying to deal with these Chaos Warriors with their great weapons, as the Gyrocopter with the Brimstone Guns are trying to provide some support up front here. The cannons you can see once more taken care of by these Chaos Warriors with their great weapons, so good job there staying on top of those cannons. They did manage to get back to their equipment, so well done over there. But over here now you can see we have the Gorebeast Chariot again being able to push through the Thunderers, but ultimately a great use of Tormentor Sword from the Thane back here, holding the Gorebeast Chariot in place and then charging right in, because otherwise the Chaos Marauders with their great weapons would be able to close the gap as well, and that would spell doom for both of these units. But instead, the Thane is able to dive into the Gorebeast Chariot using that Tormentor Sword advantage and get that Gorebeast Chariot to completely give up on the fight. So beautifully done. Tormentor Sword doesn't last for the longest time, so you can see these Chaos Marauders are able to push in more or less immediately, but there is the shatter on the Gorebeast Chariot. So beautiful use of the Tormentor Sword over there. Well, over here you can see these Chaos Warriors with great weapons completely eliminated that unit of Dwarf Warriors and are now able to join into the fray over here. And once again, the Warriors of Chaos look like they're coming out on top despite that Feral Manticore being lost. Well done by the Gyrocopter there, making sure that the Feral Manticore is taken care of, so there's no more air superiority, or rather I should say air superiority belongs to the Dwarves. And on that topic you can see the Gyrocopter with the Brimstone Guns firing away at some of these Chaos Warriors as they try to close the gap to these Thunderers. Well done over there, trying to keep the ranged units alive over here, firing away, doing a lot of damage to health and morale, of course. And back here as well you can see the Thane is trying to get away from this unit of Chaos Marauders with great weapons, and the Brimstone Gun can come through and provide some support. They are out of ammunition, but they can dive in on melee, of course. They aren't armor piercing in melee, but they'll still cause a bit of a distraction. You can see once more the cannon crew has decided to rally. So these guys really want to fight. They have a grudge against some of these warriors of chaos. So you can see as well the Rune Lord that was allowed to escape has rallied as well. So the Rune Lord might now return as well, give some magical, or I shouldn't say magical, but give some runic support in the form of the Rune of Wrath and Ruin. A little bit of a bad call there, letting that Rune Lord survive. Over here, though, you can see a little bit of a bombing run from the gyrocopters, and now diving into melee alongside the Thane, hoping to get some work done. Well, off in the distance over here, you can see the Dragonback Slayers in a tight spot, as these Chaos Warriors are going to do a lot of work over there. And immediately you can see the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin is being used on this unit of Chaos Warriors with great weapons, reducing their health, reducing their morale as a result, and their speed, of course, allowing the Thunderers to get away. And ultimately, these guys decide to rout, and the Thunderers are able to turn around and open fire at this clump of units over here as the gyrocopters with their brimstone guns dive in as well. Of course, they are, again, out of ammunition, but they can still cause a bit of a distraction and dive in and melee and do a little bit of damage here and there. At the same time, you can see the cannon crew over here pushing in towards their cannons, while the Thane as well pushing in towards this giant clump, hoping to get some work done. Low, very low on health, low on morale as well, but the Thunderer Fire providing a little bit of support and morale damage into these Chaos Warriors as well. In goes the Thane, in come the gyrocopters as well, hoping to get some work done. Tormentor Sword goes down, holding them in place, and this is why you shouldn't clump up near a Thane when there is a range unit nearby. That Tormentor Sword is just to hold these guys in place so that these guys and these guys can fire away at a nice clump that was provided on a golden platter. A silver platter? A golden platter? Either way, these units should have actually split up and chased after the Thunderers as well as the Thane over here. Bad call over there, so some of those shots go in. Tormentor Sword does wear off relatively quickly, and these guys immediately get the message. They split up, they chase after the Thunderers as well as the Thane, but of course the Dwarves turn around. Thane dives in, tries to get some damage done, and the Thunderers as well firing in onto this unit of Chaos Warriors with great weapons. And take a look at the cannon crew. It is actually at the cannon and is firing away and is starting to get a fair bit of work done. So that is why you need to finish a unit off, especially one that can be as threatening as an artillery piece. So these guys are clumping up against the Thane, and the Thane is in a terrible situation, no doubt. He actually decides to rout, turns around and tries to leave the field, but that cannon is now opening fire and getting a fair bit of work done. The gyrocopter as well, unfortunately though, routing now, so it's just these Thunderers, the cannon over there, and we also have the Rune Lord over here. We've got these gyrocopters off in the distance as well, but I think they have been forgotten, so they are just sitting there looking, as I like to say, pretty. But over here, these Chaos Warriors with their great weapons are trying to close the gap to these Thunderers. As they're doing so, though, you can see over here, we've got these Chaos Warriors chasing the Thane off the field. Great call. And we've got the cannon still firing away. Take a look at some of these shots. They do so much damage to these Chaos Warriors, not just to health, but also to morale. Being under artillery fire is absolutely devastating, and it's separate from being under range fire from Thunderers. So these guys are not having a good time as they're trying to close the gap to these range units of the Dwarfs. So those cannon shots are going to come in, and they're going to do a fair bit of work, while this gyrocopter unit as well is looking to dive in if possible, get a nice rear charge perhaps. You can see though these Chaos Warriors are about to close the gap over here. These Thunderers do decide to give up on the fight. They turn around, start to rout, but the cannon continues to fire away. It still has a fair bit of ammunition, in fact, so it is going to continue firing away. So in come some more shots. You can see doing a fair bit of hurt to these Chaos Warriors. A little bit of friendly fire in that shot as well, I think, killing some Thunderers, but it's okay. Now, you can see we have two gyrocopter units in the air alongside the cannon unit over here against two of these Chaos Warriors with great weapons. The Rune Lord has actually left the field, given up on the fight, and it really is in favor of the Warriors of Chaos right now. Despite what the balance of power says right now, if these Chaos Warriors are able to close the gap on the cannons and eliminate the cannons, the Dwarfs have to fight in melee with their gyrocopters because they can't stay in the air. So this is very easily the Warriors of Chaos' game. And over here you can see these Thunderers are being chased right to the edge of the map. So as I say that, a nice shot from the cannons as well, but these guys are being chased off to the edge of the map, making sure they don't return to the fight. And more of that earlier in the battle would have made a huge difference, of course, but you can see those gyrocopters firing away now, getting these guys to rout as well. So wonderfully done there between the cannon and the gyrocopters with their brimstone guns. Very nicely done. Meanwhile, over here, we had these Chaos Warriors pushing in towards the cannon, and because of a little bit of harassment from the gyrocopter over here, these Chaos Warriors actually turn around and give chase, and that is a terrible idea right now. Need to close the gap to the cannon. That cannon's going to just open shots off into the backs of those Chaos Warriors. They're more than happy to do so. Fortunately, the Chaos Warriors ultimately decide to turn around and continue their chase towards the cannons, but unfortunately, in come some more shots. They were given enough time to reload. They fire away. In come some shots as well from the gyrocopter, doing a fair bit of work there, and down goes the Chaos Warrior morale. They are now wavering. In comes another rear charge from the gyrocopter over there. More cannon fire, and ultimately they rout, but Take a look at this. These guys are now willing to fight once more just because of a couple shots, getting them to rout. The gyrocopters here decided to turn around and provide support against that unit instead, and so these guys are now willing to fight once more, but in comes more of that brimstone gunfire. These guys are very low on morale, and it continues to lower again. Brimstone gunfire, I believe, counts as artillery fire as well, if I'm not mistaken. It does, so that's a huge, huge drop to morale. In come a few more shots. That's another volley. The cannon, I believe, as well, turning around to open shots, and you can see in comes a shot from the cannon, absolutely destroying that one poor unfortunate soul. He gets exploded to bits. You can see, I think his legs are flying around separate to his body, or I don't think his body's there anymore. But very nice shot there from the cannon. Good job by the Dowie. A Pyrrhic victory. Now, I can't quantify the number of times I was yelling at my screen as I reviewed this battle. The Warriors of Chaos almost won this, though they would have done so with an interesting opening act to the battle. Ultimately, it was a lack of commitment that turned things around. I sound like a shrink. Let this battle be a lesson to you. Don't leave for tomorrow that which you can kill, maim, or burn today. Artillery left alive, came back. Thunderers left alive, came back. Gyrocopters left alive, came back. And who ultimately won the day for the Dowie? As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep submitting your battle replays. I think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to highlight such amazing battles from the community. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.